Hello everyone and welcome back to the Winners Club podcast. Now today's purpose of this episode is discussing what makes good leadership and also highlighting what makes flawed leadership and improving on it to benefit our society. Now again, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and also turn on the bell notifications so that way you are always up to date on the Winners Club content. You can also find the audio version of this episode that'll be linked down below in the description. Make sure to check that out as well. And now we greatly appreciate all your love and support. Let's get into today's freestyle.
So I wanna propose a question to both of you. It's a two-parter. What is a leader, and can anybody embrace the leadership role? I don't think it's just out there for anybody to take and embody, in my opinion at least, but I want to hear what you guys say.
Well, a leader is somebody that embodies the overall, power to persuade a group of people, but in the right way, I guess you can say. There's somebody that's supposed to be knowledgeable and somebody that people could look up to for whether it's knowledge or a skill set, or somebody that's just there to serve guidance, I guess you can say. But to answer your question, I think, no, not everybody embraces that, I'd say. That's not for everybody. Some people are just natural born leaders. Some people develop leadership. But it's not, leadership just isn't a title. That's why I don't really believe in captains, because anybody's just given a captain role, right? And it's usually a kid that's really good at what they do with no form of leadership. They're just the best kid on the team, so of course they're going to be put at the highest standard. But that's a perfect example of people kind of just giving out leadership cards. So no, I don't believe, everybody should get that leadership thing if they don't have it. So what do you think, Brian?
I think... So I'm kind of like half and half. I think some people can lead and develop the leadership. They just need to develop the leadership factors to become it. Like I'll give an example. Most leaders, they're really good. You see, they're really good at public speaking, really intellect with their words. But some are introverts, some are extroverts. And I think that's a perfect example of developing that public speaking skill, but also knowing how to spread compassion towards others and sympathy for others. It's not just some power hungry, I'm a leader, so I'm going to boss you around. You go do this, you go do that. Sort of, we're going to work together and always check in with your team. And, we're a team. It's not, I'm this high standard above you. We're all equal, but let's work together as a team. And everyone can lead.
I agree. I think leadership, or the role of a leader, is an earned status. It's kind of like a participation award, Yeah. What is the difference between first place and last place if everybody gets an award? Do you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing with status. So a leader is somebody who I feel is definitely taken seriously, somebody who possesses the traits of courageousness, bravery, responsibility, accountability, and alertness / cooperativeness. So I believe when somebody's a leader, they're not dictating the pathway of what is going to happen. They're just the first person to step forward and make a move. Other people follow, but then that leader, that person who first took the original step, their responsibility is to be accountable for when things fail, but praise everybody else when things go right. That's what a good leader is, in my opinion. Simon Sinek talks a lot about this in the business world, how these companies are failing now because of the failed leadership roles. So there's another concept of this that really plays with the traits that I described of cooperativeness and all these other things, courageousness. So there's two games. There's an infinite game and a finite game. The finite game is the game that is classified by a winner. So when we see in baseball, that's a finite game because, there's agreed upon objectives. Whoever has the most points after the last inning wins, and they compete against each other to win. That's a finite game. But then there's infinite games like marriage. You don't win marriage. You don't win a business. I've never heard of that. Doesn't happen. So when we look at business, though, it is an infinite game because you don't win. There are no agreed upon objectives. It is an infinite game. So when we look, Simon Sinek talks a lot about his experiences speaking with Microsoft compared to Apple. When he spoke with Microsoft, 70% of that lecture was talking about how they are developing a product that will beat Apple, hence the finite game. Those leaders in that role of that company are in the finite game. But then when we look at Apple, they spent 100% of the time talking about how they're going to be better than they were yesterday. That is an infinite game. They understand that this is going to happen infinitely. There is no winning. You can't beat somebody else. So then Simon talks a lot about how he wanted to spice it up, and he was speaking to an Apple representative saying, oh, no, I just spoke with Microsoft before meeting with you. They just tried to hand me some new product. It was something like a mock of the iPhone at the time, or maybe the iPod. I don't know. It was a while ago. Mm-hmm. And he wanted to say it was so much better than the Apple product that it was comparing itself to. The Apple employee says, I have no doubt. So that Apple employee has been wired from this leader to think in the way of an infinite game. So we see this, though, in the infinite game of leaders, that you will have bad times. You will have times where people are excelling past you, where you may be wrong, where you may just fully not understand. But you're in it to survive. Just like the Cold War, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like these people were fighting. One was fighting to win, one was fighting for their lives. Same with the Vietnam War. We lost the Vietnam War because we were fighting to win. Vietnamese were fighting for their lives. So Apple is literally pushing their business. I want to invest in Apple because that's a great leader right there. That's a great leadership role. And obviously we see how successful they are because of this. So leadership does, I feel, determine success in some way, in some degree. So that's part of courageousness, is when you see other people passing you and you are wrong about something as a leader, you take accountability because you are the one directing, but then you also praise everybody else, who you're responsible for. And that's the big thing, is you're responsible for these people. So it's important that you value them. Tell me this. As a leader, say you're operating a hypothetical business per se. Yep. It's a $1 million company and you have thousands of workers for you. But whenever they make a mistake, you're very critical on them. You're always down their throats, perfecting on trying what they do, so you're better than who you compare yourself to. Number one, that's just a pathetic way to live, is self-comparison and all this other things. But how does that portray your leadership? Terrible. Mm-hmm. It's not a good way at all. Yeah. But imagine now that you're somebody who's just trying to adapt to the philosophy of, I will be better than I was yesterday. That's it. And you actually, hold yourself accountable when you make a mistake, because everybody's learning. Nobody is Aristotle. And then you also are adapting to healthier environments in the workplace. People love their job. People feel that they can be themselves. And you ask, what are things that I can do to help you? You know what I mean? Yeah. That is a healthy leadership role, and that is what will determine success. In any successful situation, whether it's just an internal or external force, there needs to be a form of leadership. Usually when people have self-success, they're their own leader. But if they want group success, somebody's going to have to take charge. There's one person. Does that make sense? So tell me, what are those qualities of that person who's taking charge?
I think a person needs to be, a leader needs to be able to not only highlight, what they've done with the company, but also highlight the losses that they've had with that company, whether that's poor communication within, whatever they're working with, whatever team they're working with, but also checking in occasionally, checking in on the business, making sure it's going right, just making sure the team is, feeling well, and always listening to, the people below them, what they think they could offer, what they think could be, what could be different. always looking for that improvement each day.
Well, going back to what you said about qualities, I think, obviously what you just described as a scenario is very poor qualities. But like you said, Brett, always trying to seek advice from people that are lower than you.
Yeah.
Being a leader is somebody that's open to hearing stuff from everybody, even people that aren't necessarily leaders themselves, but they may have a suggestion to you because they're on the outside. They may see something that you may not see.
Exactly.
So I think being open to new ideas is one thing. Another thing, too, is, like you said, accepting losses. But I think recognizing those losses first and kind of taking a step back and realizing what went wrong and improving on them makes them a great leader. So, for example, like you said before, with the mistakes that the workers made, why did they make that mistake? What happened? Because, to be honest, they're working under you. You're the leader. So you're kind of telling them and coaching them what to do. So a part of that mistake kind of leads back to you. So you got to really hold yourself accountable and be like, okay, I got to see what went wrong here. How can I change my leadership so that way it won't happen next time? And I think that's the only way to do it. So.
I like that. As a leader, I feel that you have to be very in tune with everybody that, is following you, whether it can be the lowest worker, janitor, you know what I mean? If you're a principal of a school, if the janitor has a suggestion, you listen. That's what a quality leader does, is that you're open to anything, any kind of improvement, you know what I mean? But I also feel that I want to talk about poor leaders, because I feel poor leaders that you hinted at, Brett, earlier. Poor leaders are not even leaders. They're either dictators or tyrants. They're power hungry. They want more benefit than the overall goodness of fit for every employee that they have. So when we look at somebody like you just said, a worker who makes a mistake, well, first let's picture how that could have happened. First, maybe they're having a terrible personal life. Maybe they made 3 straight errors in a row and aren't talking about it because they are actually depressed and they just don't feel comfortable to talk about it. So, as a leader, you could say, what is something I can do to help you, rather than, if this happens again, I can't guarantee your job security in the future. You know what I mean? Things like that. So it's something like that where if we were to just be more empathetic as leaders, I feel that a lot of the business world issues would be solved, especially with children. Our generation we were born with a bit of a disadvantage in terms of media, because we were kind of the guinea pigs with this. So when we became derived as kids from pleasure on visual stimulants, you know what I mean? It's very hard to pry ourselves off of that, because some kids now are growing up with literally being parented by their mobile tablets. How can you strip that away from a child when they have secure attachment to an object? You know what I mean? So it's like when bosses or business owners yell at young kids when they're on their phones at work, they're failing to understand that this was our norm. So instead of shunning the child and young adult, adolescent, whoever's working for you, be more empathetic with the cards that they were dealt. You know what I mean? But in terms of like the environment, I think it's very important to always ask, employees or people working for you under your leadership, what is something that I can do individually to help bring you up?
Yeah.
A lot of poor leaders don't do that. They only want the status. They want the benefits for themselves. Kind of like, you ever see those things in the newspaper of like, or not in the newspaper, on the news, whatever, Instagram, of like money frauds or something, like in companies where like the highest of the power was just pocketing money and like totally, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but they were pocketing excess money and taking it away from their employees, hopefully without them noticing. That's just poor leadership. It's a tyrant. So
now, I hope you enjoyed today's listen to the new freestyle. Again, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and also turn on the bell notifications so you're always notified of when we upload. You can also like and leave a comment down below of what you thought of today's episode. Any feedback and suggestions, we greatly appreciate it. And now I hope you'll have a lovely day and a great week. And until next time.